They take care of our children and clean our houses, but who's protecting them? They are nannies, and what's happening to some of them across Canada is absolutely criminal. Our Carolyn Jarvis tonight with their heartbreaking stories.
They're well-educated women, many of them wives, some mothers, all with the same desire.
My goals here is to upgrade my life for my greener pasture.
4 nannies who come here under the federal live-in caregiver program to look after Canadian kids. What's startling is the similarity in their stories once they've arrived.
So you were paid $5 an hour looking after 8 kids?
Yes.
So you often worked 12-hour days?
Yes.
And would you get paid overtime?
No.
14 to 16 hours a day without overtime pay.
You worked 16 hours a day?
14 to 16 hours a day until Saturday night.
The program is rife with abuse. Created in 1992 in place of a national daycare system, the live-in caregiver program seems ideal for a woman looking to make a life in Canada. The premise is that if a caregiver works 24 months in a 3-year period, they can apply to be a Canadian citizen as well as sponsor their family. They have to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, get paid minimum wage, and have their own room. That is, in theory. Professor Geraldine Pratt has been studying the program for 15 years.
On paper, it looks fine, but there are no regulatory bodies that oversee it. So for example, you have to promise that you're providing a room that can be locked to the domestic worker, but nobody looks to see if that room is being provided.
And so without any sort of monitoring system, no one knows when workers aren't being paid, when they're being subcontracted out to other families in the neighborhood, or like this caregiver who is too scared to show her face, forced to live in deplorable conditions.
Just like a mobile home.
A mobile home?
Yeah.
And did you have your own room?
No.
So where did you sleep?
I stayed with the young kid.
In the same bed?
Yes.
She was supposed to earn $900 a month, but it didn't take long for the paychecks to stop coming.
I can remember they gave me $25.
They gave you $25
Yes.
as a salary for 2 weeks, that was?
Yes.
Perhaps most heartbreaking is the fact her story is not unique.
I go down to the basement to go to my room, and I saw my room is just like a storage room. There's no window, the door cannot lock or cannot close properly.
This woman would work 15 hours a day, and when she tried to quit, the threat of a lawsuit and deportation began.
When I asked the permission to her to quit my job today, and she told me that she treated me that, oh, you're gonna deport to the Philippines if you get my job.
She threatened to deport you?
Yes.
So who's looking after our caregivers? The federal immigration minister says a monitoring system would simply cost too much.
This is a challenge. How can we better monitor the situations so we can identify where there are abusive employers? Quite frankly, to create a seamless system of oversight for this program would be massively expensive.
And so Jason Kenney has started a series of consultations, the results of which are expected this June.
We are seriously looking, and we'll be making improvements to the program.
Now, usually talk like that would spur optimism among social advocates, except it's not the first time we've heard it. Back in 2002, Denis Coderre made changes to the live-in caregiver program during his time as immigration minister. Then Judy Scrow came into office and presented a review of LCP, but the problems only continued. The next minister, Joe Volpe, held a national roundtable, and well, we're still where we're at today. So the question everyone's wondering is, will this latest promise of change finally bring about the change caregivers need?
We're saying no to the LCP. Scrap the LCP.
Many argue the fundamentals of the system itself are flawed and want it abolished.
What we see is the condition is getting worse. The situation of our work members in our community is worsening, especially with the rapid changes with different level of government.
I think we need to see it as a migration program. I mean, the federal government sees it as a temporary work visa program.
Whatever you call it, the need for change is clear.
The research is all there, the evidence is in, so I do think it's the time to do something about the program.
Because while the government sits idle, countless workers are feeling increasingly trapped, waiting for words to amount to something.
To my fellow Filipina, I don't want them to experience what my experience.
Next on 16 by 9.
Canadian companies are making a profit off foreign workers. Are they legal, and who's cracking down on them?
Slavery, and it shouldn't happen.
I'm a children to support.
Did you miss something? Watch our show 16 by 9 online at global16by9.com. We're back with the bigger picture.
Nanny Diaries Part 2 in 3, 2.
They leave their own children behind to take care of ours, and many of these nannies are forced to pay thousands of dollars to unscrupulous agencies just for the chance to work in this country. Carolyn Jarvis now with part 2 of her story.
Her name is Antoinette Patalo, and the first thing she'll tell you is that she's here illegally.
No, I am asking for the immigration to consider my paper because I'm a children to support.
Of course, she didn't do anything wrong in coming here. She had all the proper papers and the promise of work. But when Antoinette landed in Toronto, border officials called her recruiting agency, and her job was gone.
He called again the agency, and this agency bought me a ticket right away, going to the Philippines.
So they wanted to deport you?
Yeah.
And to think, this heart-wrenching ordeal cost her thousands.
I paid a lot of money to my agency.
How much money?
3,500 Canadian.
You spent $3,500 to a Burnaby, BC agency to come here for no job?
Recruiting agencies run a tidy business in Canada. Most people don't know they exist, but quietly they slip through loopholes in legislation and charge thousands to vulnerable foreigners like Letty Malagay.
We usually pay the agency fee of $3,500 aside from the ticket of $1,200.
It's estimated most women who come to Canada under the Live-In Caregiver program go through an agency, paying on average $5,000 to $10,000 for a job. What they don't know before arriving is that in half of the country, it's illegal. From Ontario East, there's no law stopping recruiting agencies, except in Nova Scotia, where the law has never been enforced. In the West, it's a little more piecemeal.
I did one investigation where the worker paid $60,000.
Manitoba has taken the most aggressive stance in the country, led by the Director of Employment Standards, Dave Dyson.
Slavery, and it shouldn't happen. Not in Canada.
As of a month ago, a new law requires every recruiting agency in the province to be registered.
One of the things that this legislation also does is it eliminates the concept of ghost recruiters who are essentially underground.
The legislation goes even further, making families who hire nannies register and allowing a team of investigators to randomly drop by and check in on their working conditions.
We're going to be checking in with every live-in caregiver to ensure the terms and conditions of employment are being adhered to.
In Alberta, our investigation uncovered an archaic loophole whereby recruiting fees are illegal for all employees except domestic workers. We took it to the government that now says the regulations will be changed. Service Alberta Minister Heather Klimchuk.
We are going to be moving in that direction, and we are taking that action. They will not be able to charge fees to nannies or domestic workers.
But do the laws go far enough? In BC, it's illegal for recruiting agencies to charge the worker. But remember Antoinette? She paid an agency in Burnaby for a job that didn't even turn up. So we checked in on a couple of agencies to see what we could find out. There was no one at the listed address for Canfield Immigration, a company we're told charged $2,500 to a nanny coming here for work.
Oh, hi, it's Carolyn Jarvis calling. I'm trying to reach somebody with Canfield Immigration. Is this the right number? Oh, it's a restaurant. This isn't Canfield Immigration? Okay.
Their phone numbers didn't check out either.
We're sorry. You have dialed a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
Meantime, there was no one at the office of Raponte Immigration Services that we're told charged $3,000 US to a foreign caregiver.
So if I were to come back this afternoon, any likelihood that...
No, I would say no.
But we finally reached someone on the phone who said the fee was for immigration services, a legal practice under BC law.
Are you saying that you did not charge someone $3,000?
Not here in Canada, but since we are a POA license in the Philippines, we're allowed to charge that.
The Philippine consulate told us that doesn't, in fact, make it legal. Still, it's what everyone's doing.
What's the common rate in British Columbia that agencies are charging?
Well, they're different. Like they're charging like the most that I've learned from now is 6,000.
6,000 is the going rate.
Yeah.
With such patchwork legislation, the women who come here don't know whether in one province recruiting fees are legal and in the next they're not. They just want a job in Canada.
What can we do? This is the program that we have to follow. So we're just hoping that they could do something for us under the LCP.
I think, it's the desperation of the individual. They will do anything to get into the country. Anything.
And until all the provinces catch up and actually enforce their rules, it's likely what's being called indentured servitude will only continue.